Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Waiting Room, the show that challenges you to thrive, not just survive in every area of your life. This is your host, Ruem, and in this podcast, I'll be talking about the realities of waiting in every season of life. How we wait is more important than the wait itself, so waiting well is what matters. In this episode, I will be talking about being friends with the opposite sex. This topic was inspired by a question I have received many times in different forms. People have asked me if I think that it's possible that a man and a woman can be just friends without romantic interest. And my answer to this question might surprise some of you, depending on how well you know me, but I think, yes, it is possible, very possible for males and females to be just friends without any romantic connection. And I can say that with confidence because as a Christian, we live like Christ. That's our goal, to be Christ-like. And Jesus Christ had female relationships. He had friends that he was close to and no romantic interest. So we have several examples in the Bible that name specific women that Jesus was close to, and he prayed for them, and they spent time together, and they did life together. Okay, so I think under the right conditions, there are a lot of factors to be considered. Men and women can be just friends. Now, we'll say here, this is mainly targeted towards singles. So single men and single women just establishing a healthy relationship. I think once you get married, the dynamic changes. So it's no longer just you are spoken for, and it wouldn't be wise to have close friends of the opposite sex, especially if they're closer to you, if your friendship with them is closer than what you have with your spouse. So, wisdom is important there. But I think the reason this is such a controversial, I'll say, topic, especially amongst Christians in the church world here, is because anytime we think of male and female relationships, it's under the context of romance. And Hollywood has not helped. And unfortunately, we just have Hollywood has influenced the church more than it should have, instead of, the other way around. Growing up watching romantic comedies, sitcoms, we grew up on a steady diet of watching how male and female interact, and it always leads to some kind of romance or some kind of love conflict. I think it is possible to have a good, strong friendship with members of the opposite sex. Now, I do believe that your closest friends, your best friend, should be someone the same sex. So I don't think it's wise for females to have a male best friend and vice versa. But that's just my opinion. You might feel differently about it. But I think it's just, there's certain conversations and just being able to relate to each other. It helps if it's people that understand you or who are like you. And I think another reason why the whole male and female friendship is an issue is because people are taught that anytime a member of the opposite sex interacts with you, it's because they're romantically interested in you, and which is completely false. Ladies, if a guy's nice to you, if he's opening the door, if he's giving you a compliment, he doesn't want you. He's probably not interested in you romantically. And guys, the same way. If a girl's smiling at you or, sharing her pen or at work or something, that don't read into it. Okay, so just, don't be weird about it. There's no need for all the romantic undertones. And I think, a reason why people lose their heads or lose themselves in creating this fantasy in their mind that this person is interested in them is because they haven't had a good foundation of healthy male-female relationships that are platonic. Anytime they're interacting with the opposite sex is under romantic context. So I think it's important to build healthy relationships that have no romantic interest, so that way, as you mature, as you grow, you know how to relate better to people, and of course, people of the opposite sex. So I've had the privilege of having good male friends, and I don't think that every single guy that I interact with is romantically interested in me. I think two important areas that will help a male-female relationship grow and be healthy are communication and boundaries. So we make assumptions so many times, more than we should. And, like I said, somebody approaches you and you automatically think, oh, they're attracted to me, when they're probably not even attracted to you. So in your mind, every interaction you have with them is filtered through this mindset that, there's some kind of romantic context. But I think if people would just communicate a little bit better up front and just, show that, this is more of a platonic relationship. We have the same interests. We work together, or we go to the same church, and you like a lot of the things that I like. We have common ground. I look at you as a brother or as a sister, and then that way it's clear for both parties. Like, oh, this person just sees me as a brother or a sister, a friend, and nothing else. So I would say if we could do better at communicating, and instead of making assumptions, that would probably help relationships. And then boundaries. So for example, if you're just friends, you shouldn't be giving boyfriend or girlfriend privileges without the commitment. Okay, so those boundaries need to be set. So you shouldn't be at their beck and call. You're not gonna cook and clean for them all the time. And there's also physical boundaries are so important as well. So physical boundaries with the opposite sex should be the same as your same-sex friendship. So you don't cuddle or kiss or hold hands with your best friend. So you shouldn't do that with somebody of the opposite gender. And I think it's okay if males and females hang out, especially in groups, and that's how you get to know each other and you become better friends, and going out to eat, or just day trips, or whatever it is that you're doing, and surrounding yourself with other people, singles. Once you start to isolate and it's just the two of you, that's when a lot of those romantic feelings can start to come about. But it's just kind of, you have to use wisdom there. Also, I think maturity and wisdom, as I mentioned, play a big part. Thinking of my younger self, I probably, if you had asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have vehemently said, no, men and women cannot be friends because emotions get involved and all that. But now that I'm a little bit older and I know myself a little bit better, and I know what I want, I know what I'm looking for, or at least I think I do. I'm not just gonna wear my heart on my sleeve for just any guy. Any interaction is not going to lead to something romantic. So it's just maturity plays a part, and then just being wise. Now, a lot of male and female relationships sometimes do get to a point where one person in that friendship does end up getting feelings for the other. But I think that's where communication comes in, because if you talk about it and you realize, are you on the same page? If not, then it might be good to put some distance so those feelings don't continue to grow and they don't get anywhere. So unrequited love can be hurtful. Or if you're both on the same page, then explore the idea of dating. But I think the important part is that you talk about it, communicate, talk about where you are, what your goals are, where you want to be, and that kind of thing. So why do we need opposite sex friends? It's important to have friends. We were created to have relationships. We were not created to be loners and to live in isolation. When God created Adam, he said, It is not good that man should be alone. He was surrounded with animals, but that still wasn't enough. Okay, so God made him a wife. Of course, that was a context of marriage. But the important thing is that we were created to have relationships with all kinds of people. So you have your family relationships, and then you have your peripheral relationships. Okay, but our opposite sex relationships are also important. Okay, so you have a few reasons. Number one, you learn a lot about the other gender. So females relate to females, males relate to males. The Bible says iron sharpens iron. But there's some things that we don't understand about guys, and there's some things that guys don't understand about females. And they think females are confusing. I find guys just as confusing. So how are you going to communicate with your future spouse if you can't communicate with your brother or sister in Christ? So you learn a lot about, how guys think and or how girls think and that sort of thing. Another reason is to grow personally. You'll learn what you'll need to change in your life. Guys will relate differently to females and vice versa. And there's some things that guys can talk about or do amongst themselves that would be unpleasant around females. So you can learn, okay, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have that weird habit, or maybe I shouldn't just belch after my meal like that. It's just kind of off-putting things, or other areas where we can grow. Another reason, it's not all about romance. So not every single relationship, like I mentioned, has to lead to romance. Just think of all your other relationships. You have relationships all everywhere, at work, at your neighbors, all of those. So the only romantic relationship you have is with your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend. So all the others are non-romantic. So that means you're capable of having non-romantic relationships. So you'll learn how to care about people on a personal level. No romantic pretense, and just love them as they are, who they are. Another important reason why we need opposite sex friendships is to learn how to set and practice boundaries. Okay, so you can start practicing that with your platonic friends, and let them know, hey, I don't call you after midnight or 10 o'clock, or this kind of communication is okay, this one is not okay, or I don't hang out in these places, I don't do that. So you'll learn to practice boundaries with the opposite sex, and it's best if you start on a platonic level, so that way you sort of set those reference points. When you are in a romantic relationship, it'll be easier just to keep those boundaries in place and not get carried away. And the last reason I think we need opposite sex friendships is to set the foundation of a dating relationship. Not all friendships will end up a dating relationship, but if you have a good friendship, that would be a good foundation for a dating relationship, and then possibly marriage. So those are just a few of the reasons why we need opposite sex friendships, and I'm sure there's more you could add. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And I've been reading the book Intentional Relationships by Dan Hoke and Chris Suatocho, and this book has been very eye-opening. There's a chapter on friendships, and it talks a lot about non-romantic male-female relationships. I definitely encourage you to pick up a copy. I have the link in the description. But if you are single and you are, in this stage of life where you don't have many friends of the opposite sex, and you're kind of looking around at your friend pool, and I definitely encourage you to maybe think about expanding your friend base, and invite different people into your life. You'll be surprised, what you'll learn about yourself and about other people as well. So it might be daunting just to think about going out there and putting yourself out there, becoming friends with members of the opposite sex, and initiating that conversation without causing somebody to think, oh, you're interested in them romantically. But I think as a community, especially in a church, you could get help from especially like the married couples. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about how marrieds can help singles in this area, because once again, we're a community, we're a church, we're a family. And these are just some things that I have noticed. I've been, I was saved at 18 years old, so 16 years I've been saved in the church, and I've made observations, and these are also experiences that I've had personally and close friends I've had, and we talk about. But marrieds encourage healthy friendships, so it's okay, once again, for males and females to be friends without any romantic context, because this is a lot of times, I think this is where a lot of singles trip up, because they have been told like, oh, anytime a guy is talking to you, he wants you, or he's interested in you, or vice versa. And so they don't want to talk to the members of the opposite sex because they don't want to give that impression. But if marrieds are just encourage that communication and say, you know what, it's okay, you can talk to somebody and it be platonic, that's fine. So look at it this way: the church should be the safest place that single males and females should be able to interact. So if they cannot interact safely or freely in church, where else are they going to interact with members of the opposite sex? Okay, so singles are the future of the church. They're the future marriages, they're the future families. And if we have healthy singles, they'll have healthy relationships, healthy boundaries, and they're going to have healthy marriages and families. And that's going to require less counseling and less dysfunction later on. Okay, so it's just it's all connected. We cannot separate it. And then another way marriage can help is stop with the assumptions and the gossiping and the murmuring. I hear it too many times. So I'm going to vent a little bit. Okay, so this is one of my pet peeves, and something that I, like I mentioned, I've noticed over the years. Different places, different people have also mentioned this. Marrieds can help by not gossiping. So something, I've heard over the years is, oh, did you see Susie talking to Tommy? Oh my gosh, there must be something going on there. And then that grows and that spreads. When Susie was just talking to Tommy about something random, something they have common interest in, there's no romantic interest. And then it just grows and it perpetuates, and it's just unnecessary words. So I think a lot of times, from my experience, this was in my younger self, I just kind of wrote off having friends with guys because there's just like, I didn't want to feed that. I didn't want people to think, Ruem and so are talking, so there must be something going on there. It's like, no. This is just my brother in the church that I see at least 3 times a week. We go to the same church. We are involved in the same things. And I communicate with him just as much as I communicate with my other brothers, my friends' husbands. So there's nothing special. But I think once, it's single people, it becomes like, all these, rumors and gossiping. If marrieds could just help in that area by just, keeping your mouth shut, just look with your eyes, and if you notice something, just keep it to yourself. You don't have to go tell everybody and their mom that so-and-so is talking to so-and-so. Let that friendship grow. Don't stunt it before it even starts. Okay, another way marrieds can help is to invite singles in your family. We need community, and singles a lot of times live alone. Sometimes they live with other singles, but still they don't have their own family. And just make them a part of your own. Invite them, over for dinner. Spend time with them. Have them spend time with you, running errands or just hanging out with you. Because singles need to see a realistic view of marriage, not what Hollywood is perpetuating, this fantasy. They need to see couples having good days and bad days. They need to see how families function on a stressful revival week, and they need to see how, so if you invite singles, their approach to marriage is going to be a more realistic approach and not this happily ever after nonsense. Okay, another way marriage can help is speaking into singles' lives. So encourage them when they need to be encouraged, and You rebuke them, challenge them to step out in faith, and challenge them to build other relationships, and rebuke them when they need to be rebuked, and just different things. All the facets of Christianity, just extend that to your single friends. And the most important thing, just pray for your singles, the singles in your life. Pray for them. Like I said, it kind of goes back to community. They are by themselves most of the time. Singles are the future marriages and the future families of the church. So pray for them so they can grow individually and be healthy adults, and they can have healthy friendships and healthy marriages down the road. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I can boldly say that yes, it is possible for males and females to have relationships, because Jesus Christ did, and the Bible says he was without sin. So there was Martha and Mary, we know them, Lazarus's sisters. There was Susanna and Joanna, Mary Magdalene. Those are just a few that are named in the Bible, and I'm sure there were more. So these women followed Jesus around, and they also supported his ministry. You have various stories, and he was friends with them. He prayed for them. He spent time with them. He never crossed those boundaries, and they knew going in what to expect. And I think that's kind of what we need to do, is just going into the friendship, what to expect. This is not going to be romantic. This is just a friend. You're just a friend. It is possible, with Jesus, it's just he had boundaries, and then the humility. So the Bible says that let each of you not look to his own interests, but to the interests of others. So if you kind of take your eyes off yourself, and then you just see who needs a friend, who can I reach out to and build a relationship with, and who can I be a blessing to, pray for, and that kind of thing, and put other people's interests ahead of your own. Even if you're lonely and single, the world doesn't revolve around your lack of a boyfriend or lack of a girlfriend. The world is still going, but you can still be friends, and you can still be friendly and still have healthy, good relationships with people. So earlier I mentioned the book Intentional Relationships, and that's where I got a lot of these notes from, and I recommend you read it. Even if you are married, I would still encourage you to read it, so that way you can recommend it to a single, but also it kind of gives you a little bit of more insight depending on how your relationship started, because not all marriages started on the right foundation. There are a lot of marriages out there that were not started on friendship, and that's something maybe you might need to work on, is just being friends with your spouse, and then that will help your marriage relationship as well. So for this episode, I just want to challenge you to look at your life and see where you stand. Do you need to open yourself up a little bit more and invite members of the opposite sex as friends into your life? Or is it something you feel like you're not ready for? And I understand timing is everything. So there are some seasons of life that you just have to sort of not have these kind of relationships. But if you feel like you're mature and you're wise, I don't think it's a big issue. And then if you are married, how can you help the singles around you? Are you helping, or are you a hindrance? And I challenge the marrieds, invite singles into your life and encourage healthy relationships. All right, so that is it for today's episode. I would like to thank you so much for joining me here in the waiting room. I want to hear what you have to say regarding this topic. Do you have strong relationships with members of the opposite sex? What has been your experience in the past? What's your current experience, or is this something is this an area where you want to grow? So you can email me at thewaitingroom@gmail.com, or follow me on Instagram at thewaitingroom, or you can go to my website. The link is in the description, and leave a comment there. So definitely drop a line. Look out for the next episode. In the meantime, please share this podcast with a friend. Until then, take care.